While most of Texas is reeling from this winter storm, it's not actually bad news for everyone. Comstock Resources Incorporated, which is owned by billionaire Jerry Jones, also owner of the Dallas Cowboys, they have been celebrating a surge in their pricing, their ability to raise prices during this crisis for most Texans. I want to read a quote for you from Barstool Sports. This week, and this is a quote from Roland Burns, who's the CEO of the company. He said, "This week is like hitting the jackpot with some of these incredible prices." The chief financial officer, Roland Burns, said on the earnings call Wednesday via Bloomberg, "Frankly, we were able to sell at super premium prices for a material amount of production." They went on to say, "That seems good news for Jones, who 2 years ago had a total investment of 1.1 billion in Comstock. His oil and gas company has become the leading producer in one of the nation's largest natural gas basins." And so what we're facing in Texas is the standard price gouging. Generally speaking, price gouging is illegal, especially when states of emergencies have been declared, but that doesn't seem to deter these companies like hotels in Austin, Texas, also jumping in on the price gouging. We saw earlier this week the Ramada Inn in Austin, Texas, charging upwards of $1,000 per night. But in this case, there are homeowners and renters who are facing tens of thousands of dollars in gas bills as a result of the price gouging that's taking place in Texas. Now, of course, to me, this is just representative of what happens in our system. We have a system that is built on people being able to take advantage of the least of these, or people who are in crisis, people who are in distress. And whereas most of us look at this as something where we want to reach out and help our neighbors, for Jerry Jones and his company, this is their opportunity to get as much as they can from the people who are suffering. Some have died, many are burning furniture, many are doing everything they possibly can to survive. And this is quite literally the best of times and worst of times for the people of Texas. The worst of times, obviously, for the common person in Texas, but the best of times for these organizations and these corporations that are able to charge these exorbitant prices. I'm curious, Cenk, what you think in terms of the likelihood that anyone will be held accountable for what is clearly price gouging.
Yeah, no, they will not only not be held accountable. In this case, price gouging was actually built into the system. So I'm gonna explain that in a second. By the way, but I did not know the Ramada Inn prices, Ben, that you just said. And that actually makes Heidi Cruz's logic at least more sensible, not for Ted Cruz, but for the rest of the family. She was telling friends in those leaked texts, you look, the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun is like $300 a night. And it turns out if they wanted to go to the Ramada Inn, in Texas, it's $1,000 a night. So that's why they wanted to go to Cancun. So it's not the right way to handle it, by the way. It's not to say, oh, okay, great, and let them have Ritz-Carlton. No, don't let the Ramada Inn price gouge. So
you know that your corporate policy is crap when you're making Ted Cruz look better.
Right.
I mean, you know the Ramada Inn is like a POS when you're like, oh, Ted Cruz, I get it now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the new slogan for Ted is "Yes, we can cruise." Okay, so now onto the price gouging. This is really important. The way that the Republicans built the legal system that applies to the energy companies in Texas is they allowed for flexible pricing. That sounds good, right? Oh, it's how we want them to be flexible. Flexible is good, right? No, that means yes, when demand is low and supply is high, you will get charged less, okay? But in Texas, the demand is often high, especially in the summer where it is very, very hot. And so when demand gets high, and especially if supply is low, like now, like when the pipes freeze, that means that the prices go through the roof. That is not the bug, that's the feature. So the companies told the Republicans, we want to be able to price gouge in extreme weather circumstances, because that way we'll be able to make more money. And the Republicans said, I hear what you're saying, where's my check? And those energy companies said, oh, here it is. So our own TYT investigates a story out today about how one of the companies, Midland in that case, is the biggest donor to Greg Abbott, the governor. And then Abbott let them set their own rules where they make all the money and we all get screwed and some of us die. Wow, how shocking. That same energy company gave so much money to George W. Bush. He used to call their CEO J Daddy, okay? And they also gave to Rick Perry. They've given millions to Texas Republicans. So now one of the rules they set was let us price gouge, and they got built into the law, okay? The second was don't let any federal energy come in here because we want a monopoly. And then they painted that as, free, Texas, man, we're independent. We don't need the rest of the country. Texas strong, right? Now people are saying Texas strong in the right way, like let's just please try to survive with our lives as we have to weather this storm. But before they use it as an excuse to rob you blind. And the third way they said was deregulate. So all safety measures that they would take were then just turned into suggestions and not mandatory. And you're gonna be shocked to find out that none of those companies took any of those safety precautions. They ignored those suggestions because it cost them money. So they're like, thank you very much. I pay you the bribe. You give me whatever I want. And then later, we'll have the people of Texas pay for it. And both with their lives, and then eventually the money it takes to repair all the damage that's done.
Right.
I just can't believe, like, wasn't there a point at which if you were a disgusting, rampant capitalist that you at least tried to pretend like you had some humanity? You'd be, oh no, this is terrible, and wow, this is really god awful. No, these guys are fully like, we hit the jackpot. Ding, 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 ding. Like they're just openly saying, and the quote that you said was, we've hit the jackpot. I mean, people are literally freezing to death. There are mothers who are in cars risking carbon and monoxide poisoning for their children to stay warm. And these guys are in a room like, jackpot.
Yeah, and that's the part, like it's the greatest irony to me that this guy's name is Mr. Burns, right? For anyone who grew up on The Simpsons, like this is quite literally the quintessential example of greed and excess capitalism. Like he's sitting there like Smithers, like he's really super excited about the fact that while Texans are dying, right, they're able to jack up the prices with no remorse. But I think it's quite indicative of how this system is designed to work this way, but also to implode on itself, because I think the question really is how long will the people put up with this? Because according to Mr. Burns, he has no fear whatsoever of the people of Texas looking at him and running him at a minimum, running him out of the state. Because as he's celebrating, there are people who are literally going to have to, sell their homes or pawn off things just to pay the bill that they have accrued because they've hit the jackpot.
So Ben and Helen, number one, the reason why they're brazen about it is because they've really captured the two sources of power in this country. One is the media. So the media used to be watchdogs, and they used to hound the powerful. It was a long time ago, at least 50 years ago. Now they basically serve the powerful. So will the media hold accountable the energy companies and the Republican politicians that made this crooked deal? Like we did, and we'll put the link to the article in the description box below. You could read it for yourself. Will they link the money and campaign contributions to the decisions that the politicians made? No, they won't, because they'll think, oh my God, that is the honorable Greg Abbott. I cannot suggest that perhaps the $1 million that he got might have affected his decisions. Of course it affected his decisions. And if you don't think that, you're not a journalist, you're just a servant of the powerful. Yeah. So capturing the media, because now almost all the mainstream medias are all multi-billion-dollar corporations themselves, who take advertising from other multi-billion-dollar corporations, including energy companies. So that was a huge part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle was just we legalized price gouging in Texas, as we just explained. But more importantly, we legalized bribery when the Supreme Court said corporations can give money to politicians. And then they said they can give unlimited money to politicians, and democracy was over. So that's why there's not gonna be any accountability in Texas. The next storm, you guys are gonna die again. And again, the media is gonna pretend that oh golly gee, nobody could have seen this coming. And it's gonna go round and round, and Republicans are going to help corporations rob you. And by the way, corporate Democrats too. Yeah. Each time. And the other way to read the story, by the way, is 2it.com. I'm really proud of the story. It's a great story. Make sure you check it out. Now, I want to give the last word to one of our viewers. So our viewers write in during the show, and Kim McLaughlin made such a great point earlier in the show that I want to reshare it with you. It's perfect for this story. And I love having the smartest audience in the world. TYT.com/join to become a member. All right, so Kim wrote in, American taxpayers will pay to repair electrical grids, their generators, and the water systems. So these companies got the triple dip. 1, save money by refusing to upgrade. 2, charge customers exorbitant prices when supply drops. And 3, have the federal government pay to repair everything. That is exactly right. And that's exactly how they rob us.
Yeah. And it is a depressing scenario, Cenk, that this is what we're facing, and it repeats itself time and time and time again.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.